Every year, there's a new gadget on the market, and people are forced to upgrade. Not because they need to, but because they want to. It's part of the branding ecosystem that these large corporations have actually created by marketing. But this can be perfectly called one word: consumerism. So, what is it, and is it good for you? Stay tuned for these videos that we've lined up for you talking about consumerism as the new form of slavery.
Tied to what they buy and not who they actually are. So that's why we're walking around the world with a bunch of people in designer clothing with a terrible, terrible traits and terrible character. And the crazy thing, and actually the worst part, is the economy relies on us to stay broke and not conscious of what we're doing and living paycheck to paycheck and living to purchase our next whatever is trending. Americans aren't earning more and things are getting more expensive, and the people at the top are doing that on purpose so they continue to watch us fighting over like things like teddy bear cups and swag bags, and they're just laughing at us. So you think the people who are calling this out are just like being jealous? No. If we want to move forward, if we want to change how things are, we have to like be uncomfortable for a while, aka stop buying stuff that we don't need to. You don't need that new Christmas ornament set every year. Like, just reuse what you already have. I thought that was what Christmas was about to begin with. Like, we had the same ornaments my whole childhood, and I still had an extravagant Christmas. But I digress. And I feel like they aren't fixing the system. They're just instead distracting people with trends. Anyway, like, me personally, I feel like trends aren't even good anyway especially when it comes to clothing. You see people buying all these like clothing hauls, and it's not even like staples that you should have in your closet. It's just whatever's trending, and then once you're done, you'll see it in your Goodwill a few months later. People are going into debt for lifestyles that they don't even enjoy. They're just doing it for the perfect like grid on Instagram, or to prove that they have a life to other people, and they don't even really enjoy it. Like, that's the issue. And a lot of people are addicted to new and what's in style and stuff like that. Meanwhile, the gap between the rich and like, I don't even think there's a middle class anymore. It keeps getting bigger. The gap keeps growing because people aren't paying attention to what the real issue is.
Consumerism is the perfection of slavery. That is the lecture that I just watched from Professor Zhang. He uploads all of his lectures on YouTube. I definitely check him out. But this is something that I was definitely confronted with being offline for 4 years and then coming back on TikTok, was how shocking the overconsumption and overconsumerism was. Definitely met with the face of late stage capitalism in a very frightening way. But he was saying that after World War II, all countries incorporated some tenets of Marxism. Whether they coined it as communism or socialism, what they did was prioritize the worker. Because there's no point in prioritizing money. Like, money just begets more money. But focusing on the workers produce more value. They are productive. So they created a society that focused on the worker, providing jobs that would take care of them for their life, unions, good benefits, and eventually that creates a more egalitarian society. So who doesn't like that? The elites. Because what do the elites want? They want more power. They want difference. So in the 80s, the elites then created focus on the consumer rather than the worker. So what does an economy and an ideology that focuses on the consumer promise you? Rather than a good job that will take care of you and provide you health benefits and a good life and a good way to take care of your family, it focuses on affordable goods and a variety of goods to buy. By focusing on consumer goods, you kind of create a keeping up with the Joneses society. You create competition, and then you're no longer a union of workers or a community of people. You individualize each person because you want difference, and through goods you're able to create tangible difference. When he says it's the perfection of slavery, is like we're now slaves to the hamster wheel of working so that we can buy more things. We don't even realize that we're slaves to this system or ideology that was set up for us. There is no end. Like, the goalpost just keeps moving. And so this fragmentation of the union of workers and the community of people, I think really makes us perfect consumers, in the sense that the American dream is a nuclear family who lives in their own homes rather than multi-generational homes, which is how we were primitively living in tribes. And that kind of makes us the perfect consumer, because everyone then needs their own house, their own appliances, their own furniture, their own dishware, their own kitchenware. Like, it just creates surface area for more things to be bought. That's what he means by the perfection of slavery. Is you don't even see that your goals and the dreams and what you envision for yourself is set up in this consumerist ideology. And I think TikTok and social media specifically create such a lack of an understanding of the self, or a development of the self, because you're constantly chasing these trends. You don't understand who you really are. Like, that creates a perfect consumer, is these people who will just keep buying trends and keep buying things to create some sort of identity for themselves. And you can follow someone's aesthetic and you can build your own personhood, but it's not actually yours. It's just built on things that you buy and things that you invest in to create some sense of identity for yourself.
I think most of my brothers can agree with me out there that if most women understood what this lady just said, in fact, what all the ladies are explaining in this video, society would be a better place. I'm not blaming women, by the way, but kudos to this woman, kudos to those women that have understood what that professor was actually talking about. So the professor they're talking about is Zhang, a professor that talks about consumerism. He actually talks about a lot of things that affect our societies. Now, he was talking about the effects of consumerism and the effects, implications of consumerism, that is competition. And it actually prevents people from working together in the long term, because everybody is just accumulating for self-gain to just gratify their own ego. And who does that better? Now, most of you would say maybe women or people that love shopping, but even men do that, especially when we buy cars or spend on our car. Like, all those trends that we just continue feeding our egos with, that all is part of consumerism. And an iPhone, I think, is a perfect example of that, because most iPhone users need to upgrade an iPhone after 1 year. Some is 6 months, and I've heard people talking about this as if it's a flex. It's actually part of that consumerism trend, the wild trend that people are comfortable with now, and just expressing themselves as if it should be part of life, because that has prevented us from prioritizing communication and cooperation. And I think these large corporations understand that, and that's the reason why when they are marketing, they individualize markets and just target individuals, not like as a community. Or like, have you ever seen an ad targeting a community, like, oh, get this ride or get this new car that you and your neighbor can be using? Nah, it's always about you. It's always about your ego, just gratifying the ego. So that's about this conversation. But as we continue with this conversation, kindly just leave your own thoughts down in the comment section.
Consumerism is the new slavery. Because why is it that you telling me I gotta buy something new in order to be, in style, but then that new thing becomes old, and that old thing becomes vintage, and now it's worth more money? Like, make it make sense.
Consumerism is the perfection of slavery. When I first heard Professor Zhang say that, I couldn't stop thinking about it. By the way, I highly recommend you check out his YouTube videos. They're super informative, super interesting, and I love to watch them. Hi, my name is Andrea Mizrahi, and welcome to episode 3 of It Really Is That Deep. And today, we will be talking about consumerism. Zhang says that after World War II, societies treated workers, labor, as the core of value. There was actual dignity in being a worker, not just a buyer. But starting in the 1980s, with neoliberalism and deregulation, the power shifted. The elite rewrote the rules completely. Value stopped being about creation or labor, and started to become about consumption, money, and image. Now, in this system, people aren't just citizens, they're consumers. Money becomes status. Brands become identity, and buying becomes validation. This is quite ironic coming from me, considering I have a crazy shopping addiction. Debt, comparison, and insecurity. These become the invisible chains. We don't feel forced, we feel tempted. And we don't feel controlled, we feel free to choose. But when every version of you becomes something you can buy, is that real freedom? Because here's the thing that's crazy. This isn't slavery by force. It's slavery by something much stronger, which is desire. By marketing, by algorithmic pressure, and by social comparison. So you don't rebel because you think you chose it yourself. You and I don't see the chains, but we're all wearing them. And the system? It wins every time, because we keep consuming, scrolling, and wanting more. We're never satisfied. So the next time you scroll past an ad or a viral haul video, or feel any kind of pressure to upgrade, ask yourself, are you buying because you really need it, or because you've been convinced that you need it? Because if we don't question it, the only freedom we'll ever know is the freedom to keep consuming.
I don't care. I think people should be entitled to have whatever they need to survive, whatever their basic necessities are, for free, because we are the only species that pays to exist. And I'm not saying that we're the only species that needs to do labor in order to exist, because obviously animals work hard. They're constantly searching for food and shit. I mean that I cannot just go out into the woods, cut down trees, build a log cabin somewhere, and start hunting and fishing and planting crops. Because everything is owned by somebody. Someone owns the land. I can't just go out and hunt. I need a hunting license. I can't go out and fish. I need to pay for a fishing license. I need to pay for the stuff to plant crops. And if I try to do this without paying, I am arrested. So not only are humans, like all other animals, constantly putting out so much labor, so much work in order to ensure survival, we have no other option but to do so. We cannot just go hunt in the way that an animal can, or build a shelter where we want to build it. And in that sense, I say that it should be the bare minimum that people who are brought into this world with no say in it, did not choose to be here, did not choose to exist and live a life of labor, deserve to have the things that they need. And I think that an economy, a government that forces people to work for 50 to 60 years of their life, not to get luxury things, not to get nice things, but just to get necessities, just to survive, is modern day slavery, because you cannot survive unless you do labor for them.
10 years ago, when I started ordering things online as a teenager, I remember having to wait at least 2 weeks for the package that I ordered to even leave the warehouse. And I'd be checking my email every single day, waiting for that notification that my package left the warehouse so I could start tracking when it's going to arrive at my house. And now I can order something at 9 p.m. and get it delivered to my house by 12 p.m. the next day. In less than 24 hours, I can have the very thing that I ordered online at my literal doorstep. How is that possible without slavery? I just went on Indeed and I searched warehouse jobs, New York City. Average starting wage is about $17. I saw some jobs posted for $20. But these people are working overnight shifts. For $17, that's crazy, because my clothes are not that important for you to actually be at work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. the next morning. And I do consider myself to be an impatient person, so you would think that I wouldn't come on here complaining about the fact that I could get something that I ordered online in less than 24 hours. But it's starting to really bother me, because at this point, it's so clear that this country does not value human life at all. It only values human labor. And the only reason why it values human labor is because consumerism drives this economy. So if you don't have people working at these warehouses, then other people like myself can't order things online and get them delivered quickly enough to either A, find out that they don't fit and go back online and buy something else, or B, share it to my social media and convince my followers to go buy from that same company. It's literally a cycle of slavery. You got slaves at the factory making the actual thing. You got slaves packaging it from there and shipping it to the distribution center. You got slaves at the distribution center packaging it and shipping it to me. You got slaves driving the car, and then you got slaves who are even buying these things in the first place. Like, yes, I do consider myself to be a consumerist slave.
It starts off like this. Imagine that you're somebody that gets a loan, or maybe even just win a bet. You win 5 million, right? You end up buying a house. It's like a luxury house in the most beautiful place. So you get photos of that place. Of course you want to take photos. Who wouldn't want to take photos of something they buy, like especially in the modern age? And you post on your social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and who ends up seeing the majority of your posts? It's usually friends, close relatives, right? So those people see, and when they see you flexing in your new hotel, maybe it's even a new car, they're going to end up feeling a type of way. Hurt, right? Sad. You are hurting them by what you're doing. And when you do that, they also end up getting debt to like compete with you. And when that happens, it creates some sort of psychological warfare, which separates you from them. So you end up hating each other. And what usually happens in long term, you don't work together, you don't cooperate. So he's saying this creates a unique sort of I don't know how I can call it. It's a competitiveness that prevents people in the society from working together, even if they were friends. And when that happens, society crumbles. And when society crumbles, consumerism continues, because everybody is comfortable with consumerism. You chose it. So you chose this method of slavery. You sort of like optimized to it, or you sort of subscribed to it, hence optimizing yourself in the process. Individuation or individualization, he calls it. So this is the conversation that everybody is having about consumerism, and with the economic situation right now mixed with this, you've seen the havoc, you've seen the chaos. So what do you think? Do you think this professor is right by citing this? And what are some of the experiences that you've had with consumerism? Like, I've heard people going in shopping malls and buying items that they didn't want to buy. I have seen people buying a bunch of makeup, a bunch of things, even cars. Like, we've seen Rick Ross with those cars. How are you gonna drive all of those cars that are parked randomly in his like house or yard or whatever? Now, I think, just in closing, I just want to give you a glimpse of the difference between consumerism and actually buying what you need. So, consumerism is actually just focusing on buying wants rather than needs. So, the needs, the basic needs, are actually just shelter, food, and clothing. Like, as much as a poverty or struggling goes, you really need only these three items to survive: food, shelter, and clothing, right? So when you have those, and you're good to go. You are living your life. But when you accumulate more than that, when you accumulate comfort, like having luxury cars doesn't is not a necessity. Like having a Lamborghini is not really a necessity. Like, where do you really want to travel to? Unless if you're like a high class business individual, then you can get like a private jet or something, right? Like, there are people that really need a private jet to get wherever they want to go for a business meeting. But even without a private jet, you can still maneuver around in business meetings. So some of these items just become a sort of luxury. It's a subscription for a luxury lifestyle, because you have food, you have clothes, you have shelter. What do you need the extra things for? So it goes down to the marketing, to the psychological warfare that we are all succumbed to, the educational system. I'm talking about television, tell a lie, obviously, because we've all been programmed to function in a type of way. I will not look at what I need right now in the moment. I'll look at what I want, and that's where the majority of our salaries go to. So this Professor Jiwang Zukin, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, actually was lecturing and giving this lecture, and you can find a lot of clips on TikTok and the full video on YouTube if you just like want to go in depth with this discussion. And that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed today's discussion, kindly like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.